Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dave, and we're the IB English guys. Today we're going to talk about spitballing paper 2 questions.
Mr. Giles, I hate this word spitball. Can you please explain to our viewers what we're going to talk about? Because no one knows this word.
I know. You hate my orange shirt, you hate the word. Spitballing means to informally play with ideas. When we're spitballing, we're brainstorming, we're thinking about potential paper 2 questions, coming up with topics and writing our own questions. And this is a great process that we would invite you to go through because this helps with your paper 2
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. You know, the IB's only given us 4 practice paper 2 questions, so we need to do a lot of brainstorming and thinking so we can come up with our own questions and anticipate what might show up on assessment day.
Yeah, why do we want to do that? Number one, we can predict the questions that we might encounter. Who knows? Maybe one of those questions we spitball might show up on the test. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. Also, we want to think about those 4 sample questions and even some past examinations from the old course and think about, how is the IB formulating their questions? What kind of phrasing are they using? What are they focusing on? What are they emphasizing? So we really, spitballing can help you with this.
Yeah, we also are thinking comparatively as we write these questions. We're already engaging and thinking about the text that we've studied and how these questions can fit those particular works, and that's fun.
Yeah, what do you say we go ahead and put the 4 sample questions that we've had from the IB up on the screen right now and talk about some of the attributes of those questions so our students can spitball? What do you say?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the first thing I notice when I look at a lot of these questions is that there's an emphasis on themes. We're thinking about the idea of like the struggle to be understood. That's something thematic. That's an idea that I can think about. And I think, again, we're thinking about how the works explore good and bad. Again, that's a thematic, ethical question that they're thinking about. So that is one of the aspects. What else do we notice?
Of course, we need to remember that compare and contrast element, and you will see that embedded in each of the questions in some capacity. Of course, they're asking about 2 works. You'll actually see words that overtly ask you to compare and contrast. So pay attention to that. Remember, this is a compare and contrast paper, Mr. Giles. Can't forget that. What else do you notice?
I also notice that they're general and open-ended. When they're writing these questions, they have to be questions that are appropriate for a wide variety of literary texts. Not all literary texts, but a wide variety. So they need to be general, and they need to be open-ended open to some interpretation.
Yeah. Also, we want to think about both content and form, right? So you have your thematic ideas, you have your rich ideas in the texts themselves, but we need to think about the how. How are authors presenting these rich ideas? That's the craft. That's where you make your money. That's criterion B. Don't forget to think about the form.
That's great. And again, that connects to the idea of authorial choices. And they're open to interpretation. That these questions, we have to then interpret the question for ourselves and make that interpretation so that we can arrive at a thesis.
Mr. Giles, sounds like you're talking about implications, but that's the topic for another video, okay?
Yeah.
You want to do some spitballing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are you going to shoot spitballs at me?
No,
I hate this word. I hate this word, but let's do it. Okay, here we go.
All right, let's take the topic of obstacles and walls, right? We think about that as an interesting idea. What are some possible questions that could relate to, so I'm starting with the topic of obstacles and walls. Now I need to turn that into a question.
Yeah, it looks like the questions that you spitballed were how and to what effect do authors present barriers or obstacles in 2 works you have studied? I like that. You've totally just taken that idea of barriers and obstacles, you've integrated that in the question. I can see where you're going. And you have the how, so I see both the content and the form of this question.
Yeah.
Nice.
Spin it around a little differently, and we can say discuss the construction and or dismantling of walls and barriers in 2 of the works you've studied. So now we're thinking about how walls are put up and how walls are taken down. That's a slightly different, nuanced question.
You want to move down to the natural world and check that? I love the natural world. Okay?
I like that.
How are you going to spitball some questions about the natural world, Mr. Giles? You're always outside.
Yeah, I'm thinking about human beings and our relationship with nature. I think that's interesting. So I might have something about how and to what effect. I'm thinking about that dynamic between form and content, right? How and to what effect do authors of 2 works you've studied present the relationship of humans and the natural world? Again, open to interpretation.
Yeah.
That relationship can be so different, right?
Did you just spitball and write all these questions yourself?
Yeah, I started.
Guys, this guy just pops a document in my inbox.
It was fun though. It was fun, and then I pushed myself. Don't just write 1 question. Write 2.
All right, Giles, you're just crushing this. Can we move down to ethics and morals? Something that obviously we talk about in TOK, we talk about in all the texts we look at. Ethics and morals, what did you spitball there?
Yeah, we can think about how, discuss how and to what effect authors present the adherence to and or the violation of ethics. So we're thinking about how we stick with our ethics or we violate our ethics.
Wow, I can think of that pairing up nicely with a lot of the texts we do. Were you thinking of the texts that we studied as you wrote these questions?
Yeah. To be honest, I thought about what possible topics that would fit the works that we study,
Yeah.
and it's not just two works, right? It's many.
So let me get this straight. So you kind of started with your menu of text, and you thought about what ideas are prevalent here. Then you started spitballing.
Yeah, I'm thinking about what questions would kind of fit really nicely, and it made me think about.
All right, now
I like control.
Yeah,
control
now that's
is
like
interesting.
I'm thinking about our text. Okay, control. What did you spitball for control?
I just took the word control and I thought, ooh, control's an interesting word. We think about like being out of control, being in control. So there's so many different things I can do with that word. So I said, let's just think about characters who are out of control, right? We often see characters that are out of control.
Or characters who
ways.
are under control, right? We could think about that as well. Characters being controlled by other characters. So much you can do is spitball control.
So that was where the other question was, how do authors convey the concept of control? Then it's open for me to interpret that.
Yeah, I think if that one, how do authors convey the concept of control? I would advise a student to even define the word control in their introduction. How are you going to frame this in your paper, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, mentors and teachers, I'm curious. What'd you come up with there?
Well, I thought about a lot of literature often has that guide, that mentor. That's a part of the
part
whole
of the hero's journey.
Yeah,
right?
He's
in there.
So think about discuss the role of teachers or mentors into the works you've studied. A teacher, can be a person, but also be lots of different ways to interpret that, right? So I thought that was interesting.
Guys, this guy's clever. Last topic, Giles, privacy.
Yeah, thinking about like invasions of privacy, right? The whole concept of privacy. So again, how and to what effect they present the concept of privacy.
Yeah, we don't teach Shuggy Bane, but I think about that character and his issues with privacy. I would like to answer that question.
Yeah, and I also thought about that conflict between public life and private life and how that oftentimes that conflict is presented. So again, all these things were things that I was just kind of spitballing and playing with. Now we would like to say, I think this is a great chance for, okay, these are a couple of things I spitballed. Now it's your turn to spitball.
So folks,
right?
in closing, we encourage you to spitball. Think about the text you're working with and just do some brainstorming. Come up with some questions. Remember, you could emphasize the themes. What else could you do?
You could write something that is inviting us to compare and contrast two works.
Remember, you want to have general and open-ended questions.
You want to make sure you focus on form and the how, but also on content.
Yeah,
and the what effect.
Yeah, make sure that your question invites that discussion of authorial choices. And lastly, make sure that you're thinking about implications and interpreting, okay? Folks, enjoy writing your paper 2 questions. Do this with friends. Do this with your teacher. Do this on your own. The more questions you think about and the more outline sample responses you write, the better prepared you'll be for paper 2. Thanks for watching and see you next time on the channel.
Bye, guys.